Hey, what's going on, you guys? So in this video, we'll talk all about subject-verb agreement questions as they appear on the digital SAT exam. So by the end of this video, you guys will acquire these special skills, right, and knowledge pieces. So one, you guys will be able to predict the SAT's next moves. So I'll show you guys a cool little trick, a cool little hack that'll help you to know exactly when subject-verb agreement questions are being tested. Secondly, you'll also know exactly what to do about it. Right? You'll know what to look for, what to do, and also the things that you want to avoid doing when tested on subject-verb agreement. So this is where I'll teach you guys a foundational grammar concept, actually two of them, right, called simple subjects and complete subjects. Your job is to be able to identify the simple subject in a sentence and then choose the correct verb, right, that pairs with that subject. We'll talk all about that right in this video. Thirdly, you guys will boost your confidence. This is something that I can guarantee as long as you're paying attention and watching this videos to the end. You guys, and the reason why you guys will increase your confidence is because you guys will have more knowledge and more skill. I'll teach you guys exactly what you need to know and exactly how to do things, right? With the step-by-step process that I use when solving these questions and that I've taught to thousands of students. Right, this will help you guys to become more accurate, right, when solving these questions. And of course, when you guys are more accurate solving questions, your scores will naturally go up. Okay, so you have a lot of stuff to look forward to, right, in this video. These are big promises, right, but these are promises that I can guarantee to deliver on as long as you're paying attention. So we will be using College Board's practice test number 1, module 1 exam. You guys can download these on the College Board website. Just do a quick Google search, say digital SAT practice test College Board 1, right? And then you'll be able to download it. This is going to be question number 26. You guys can see that at the top of the page, right? And the specific concept that we're going to be tested on, I also labeled that here as well, right? We know that we're being tested on verbs. You won't see this anywhere else. On other sort of platforms, those instructors will just use like general terms or general categories like standard English conventions, expression of ideas, right? You guys will see that type of language, but you want to go one step further. You want to know more specifically or more precisely what they're testing you on. The more specifically you know what the SAT is testing you on, right, the more in control you will be, right, when you're taking this test. Okay, and that's really where I want to get you guys. I want to give you guys that feeling of confidence, right? I want to help you guys become confident test takers so that you know exactly what to look out for, exactly what to do when you're solving these questions come test day. So taking a look at this question here. So the first thing that we're going to take a look at, you guys, is the answer choices. So this is going to be that little hack, right? Take a look at the answer choices before you read the passage. Looking at the answer choices will give you guys a good clue, right, or help you guys to know what the SAT is testing you on specifically. Now, this is what you're looking out for, right? You want to look out for differences between singular and plural verbs, right? So we know that we're being tested on verbs for this question, but we want to go one step further and ask ourselves, are any of these verbs singular and are any of these verbs plural? If one of these verbs is singular and another verb is plural, right, then you know that you're going to be tested on subject-verb agreement. That's a guarantee. It's going to be at least one of the concepts you're going to be tested on. Now, the SAT can test you on more than one concept for a single question, but you know for sure that one of the things they're testing you on is, right, subject-verb agreement. Okay, this difference between singular and plural verbs. So let me ask you guys this question, right? Are there any differences, right, between singular and plural verbs among the answer choices? Some of you guys said, yeah, I do notice that, right? Well, tell me guys, which answer choice is singular and which answer choice or answer choices are plural? So answer choice A here is a singular verb, right? You would say he allows, a singular subject, he, right, pairs with a singular verb, right, allows. Right? You wouldn't say they allows, and it sounds awkward, but it's also not grammatically correct, right? We don't use a plural subject to pair with the singular verb, right? This is what the concept of subject-verb agreement is all about. We use singular subjects to pair with singular verbs, and we use plural subjects to pair with plural verbs, okay? So allows is a singular verb. What about B, C, and D, right? These are all going to be plural verbs. How do we know this, right? Well, answer choice D is going to be the easiest, right? When we don't have an S at the end of a verb, right, we know that that's going to be a plural verb, right? So here we would say they allow. We wouldn't say he allow, right? That sounds awkward, but it's also grammatically incorrect, right? We want to use a plural subject to pair with the plural verb. Now, sometimes some students get confused, right, about these verb phrases. They're not sure how to identify if this is singular or plural. Well, the trick is here, you guys, don't look at the second word, look at the first word, right? So have, you know, is a plural verb. You would say they have, right? You don't say he have, right? So because you say they have, you know that have is a plural verb. Same thing with are, right? You would say they are, you don't say he are. Right? So take a look at the first word in this phrase. That'll help you guys to know whether the verb is singular or plural, okay? So now the point is, as soon as you recognize this difference between two of your answer choices, doesn't have to be with all of them, right? But just two of your answer choices, a singular verb and a plural verb, then okay, then you know that you're being tested on subject-verb agreement. So that's going to be tip number one. So now what do you do about it, right? So this is where I'll teach you guys. The second thing that's really important to know, this is going to be, you have to know two grammar concepts, right? You have to know the difference between what's called a simple subject and a complete subject. So just kind of briefly explaining, well, a complete subject, what is that? A complete subject is basically all of the words that make up the entire subject, right? So it's all of the words, right? It's all of the words that make up the complete subject, the entire subject in a sentence. Okay, a simple subject, on the other hand, it's just going to be oftentimes that one word, right? That identifies just the bare bones subject, right, in a sentence. So usually the simple subject is shorter than the complete subject, right? Because the simple subject doesn't include unnecessary words to identify the subject, okay? I know it's kind of all vague right now, and it'll become a lot clearer when we take a look at some examples. So if we take a look at the sentence here, the classic children's board game Chutes and Ladders is a version of an ancient Nepalese game. So here, you guys, the complete subject in this first sentence is the classic children's board game Chutes and Ladders. That is my complete subject. It's the entire words, right? It's all of the words that make up the entire sentence or the entire subject in the sentence, okay? Now, so complete subjects can contain, right, like adjectives, right? So classic children's board game, these are all adjectives, right? Well, simple subjects don't. So simple subjects come after adjectives and they come before modifiers. I'll explain. So in this example, the simple subject is Chutes and Ladders. So Chutes and Ladders is going to be your simple subject. Great. So your job is to identify the simple subject in a sentence. Now, why? Because you want to pair your verb with this simple subject, okay? Now, the SAT is going to make your life more challenging by making these subjects, making it harder to identify or find these simple subjects, right? The SAT is going to include a lot of extra unnecessary words to make these subjects a lot longer, right? To make your complete subjects longer, to make it harder, right, for you to identify the simple subject. Right? This is why it's important to understand this concept, to learn this concept now, and we'll go through some exercises, right, to help you guys to identify, right, the simple subject from the complete subject, okay? So once you've identified the simple subject, well, what do? After you identify the simple subject, you ask yourself, right, well, is this subject singular or plural? Okay, and so we know that Chutes and Ladders is a singular subject, right, because it's just referring to one game. It's a type of game. It's a board game. So because it's a singular subject, we want to pair that with a singular verb, right? This is why you see is as the verb for this subject, okay? A singular verb pairs with a singular subject. This is what the concept of subject-verb agreement is all about. It's basically saying that every subject and its verb must agree in number. Okay, now taking a look at the second example, or the second sentence here, it says players. Right, players, that's a subject, right? And encounter good or bad spaces while traveling along a path. So if we take a look at this sentence here, The complete subject is players. That's your complete subject. And also the simple subject is players. So in this case, right, your simple subject and your complete subject are the same thing. And that's okay. That'll happen sometimes, right? Because we don't have any extra words, right, to make the subject more complete. The subject is what the subject is, right? So players is your simple subject here. And we know, again, as soon as we find our simple subject, we ask ourselves, is this subject singular or plural? What do you guys think? So players referring to more than one person, right, is plural, which is why we want to use a plural verb, right? So players encounter. You guys getting the hang of it? Cool. So there's other ways that the SAT can make this harder, right? Which is why you want to know this concept, right? So if we take a look at the last sentence here, the one after the semicolon, it says, landing on one of the good spaces allows a player to skip ahead and arrive closer to the end goal. So in this case, let me ask you guys the question, because we practiced this a couple of times. What is the complete subject? Pause the video and identify that now. Okay, the complete subject in this sentence is landing on one of the good spaces. That is your entire subject, okay? Now let me ask you this question. What is your simple subject? Pause the video and determine your simple subject now. Great. So in this case, your simple subject is landing. Okay, now why? So there's a couple of concepts to unpack here. So this is where you guys, the SAT can make this question trickier. Right? So there's several things that you must know, right, about this subject. Okay, so I'll talk about one of those right now. So first of all, you guys, a simple subject is never going to be found inside of prepositional phrases. Okay? So what's a prepositional phrase? So a simple subject is never found inside of a prepositional phrase. So a prepositional phrase is basically just a group of words that begins with a preposition. Right? So prepositions are like words like on or of, right? Words like to, right? These are prepositions. Okay? Prepositions will always be paired with nouns, right? So on one of the good spaces. Right, so on one of the good spaces is your prepositional phrase. Prepositional phrases begin with the preposition and with the noun. Okay, so why is this important to identify? It's important to identify because the simple subject is never going to be found inside of prepositional phrases. Right, so here, what that means is spaces cannot be your subject. Right? Spaces is not your subject in the sentence. And this is where the SAT makes this question trickier. Right? So a lot of students will get this question wrong because they incorrectly assume that the subject in the sentence is spaces. And spaces, everybody knows, is plural. Right? So these people think, okay, well, spaces is a plural subject, so I have to use a plural verb. Right? So they actually eliminate, right, A, and they think about, well, hey, is it going to be B, C, or D? That would be incorrect to do, right? Again, why? Because your simple subject can never be found inside of prepositional phrases, right? So this is where it's really important to identify, or it's really important to work through these questions in a very systematic way. So this is going to be the third point and the last point in this video. It's the process, right? How do you solve these questions in a step-by-step way to ensure that you're getting these questions right? Right? To ensure that you're not making mistakes solving these questions. Well, the first tip that I could give you guys is do not work backwards from the verb. This is the mistake that a lot of students will make. Even high-level students, right? They actually look backwards from the verb to find their subject, right? So they ask themselves, well, okay, well, what's the subject of this verb, right? So what allows a player to skip? They're like, oh, good spaces, right? Spaces allow. They think that spaces is plural, so they end up ignoring or getting rid of the singular verb, right? That would be a mistake. So instead of going backwards from the verb, your job should be to go back to the beginning of the sentence and then go forward, right? So go back to the beginning of the sentence and move forward. And so here, this is where you're identifying your simple subject, and you're also identifying, right, your prepositional phrases, your modifiers, all of the unnecessary things that are part of the complete subject, but that you don't need, right? That don't make up the simple subject. Okay. So this is where, so it kind of looks like this. So when I say, okay, landing on, so landing is my simple subject. As soon as I see the word on in my mind, I think, okay, this is a prepositional phrase, right? So where does this prepositional phrase end? This is what you're just reading for. And everyone can do this as long as you just read for it, right? So tell me, guys, where does this prepositional phrase end? Just read it, right? On one of the good spaces. It ends right over here. So you want to ignore, right, or cross out prepositional phrases, right? Because the subject can't be included inside of prepositional phrases, okay? That's point one. The second point is, okay, well, if landing is our simple subject, then naturally our next question is, right, well, is this subject singular or plural? So this is where some students get confused. So this is where I'll teach you guys, this is where having, this foundational English knowledge piece can really help you guys out, right? Because knowing is power. So ing words, when they function, when they're used as subjects in a sentence, these guys are always singular subjects. So ing words are always singular subjects, right? So for example, if you have a sentence that says, swimming is my favorite sport, well, swimming, the ing word is singular, which is why you want to use a singular verb is, right? So if landing is a singular subject, then you need a singular verb to match. So this is why you can get rid of answer choices B, C, and D, because these are all plural verbs, right? And this is why you're going to choose answer choice A here as your correct answer. Okay, so it's actually, so can you see how the SAT tries to trick you, right, for subject-verb agreement questions? How? Well, there's two ways that they try to trick you. One, they put plural subjects when the subject is actually singular to confuse you, to throw you off, right? And also, they're going to create complete subjects, right? They're going to add a lot of unnecessary extra words, right, to make it harder for you to identify the simple subject in the sentence, okay? Your job is to go back to the beginning of the sentence, look for the simple subject, right? You want to ignore or cross out any additional, right, unnecessary pieces of information, right? Like prepositional phrases, adjectives, things like that, right? Things that just distract you from finding, right, what that simple subject is. Okay, and if you guys follow these steps, you guys will get subject-verb agreement questions right all the time, right? At least 99% of the time, because you guys are working systematically, right, at getting to the correct answer. And when you guys do that, you guys are certain to get to the correct answer for these questions, okay? So guys, that'll be it. If you guys can do me a favor, please comment in the comment box below. Tell me one thing that you learned that was helpful for you in this video, that you learned something from. 2, also tell me something that you want to learn, right? And then lastly, you guys, please subscribe to the channel and like the video and share this with another person who really needs it. Until next time, you guys, make sure to always stay curious, right? Never stop learning. You guys got this. Take care.